a great little mushroom, and one of the first mushrooms I ever picked is the Elm Oyster or Hypsizygus ulmarius. This is not a true oyster because it's not in Pleurotus, the oyster mushroom genus, but for all intents and purposes, it is an oyster mushroom. It's going to cook like an oyster mushroom, taste like an oyster mushroom, and they have this really funny habit of they love to grow out of the holes and knots in a tree. And it's one of the key ID characteristics here. They're always like growing out of an armpit or a branch wound. When I'm picking them, I like to cut the stem. That one's looking pretty clean. You want to make sure if it's warm outside, you can have bugs. This one, I knew it was going to have bugs, and I picked it just to show you, because that's something you want to watch out for. If it's cold, you're going to get a lot less bug action. But you can see these are all coming out of little knots and connections, and it's just one of their telltale characteristics. It's kind of cute. Now I'm going to cut some up. That one, like I said, is a little bit older. I got the stems trimmed here pretty much. These are usually really clean, so the only thing you may need to do is give them a little bit of a brush with a paper towel, because they're often growing high up on the tree and they can be hard. Some of them are impossible to cut. You can see also there's a little bug on the cutting board. That's from that bigger one. That happens sometimes. But you're going to want to trim the stems off with these. That one, I can see it's got some bug damage. And usually I wouldn't even harvest these. Some of my friends may dehydrate them. I'm just going to throw them in the yard and make some food for the squirrels. Now to cut them up, that one's nice and clean. I like to cut them into even sized pieces. And these are going to take a little while to cook because they're very wet. That one has some bug damage too. So I'm going to dehydrate that one. And a few others that I had. We'll cut them into even-sized pieces, and you can just put them in the pan for a dry saute. You just heat the pan up, and you're going to see how much water comes out of these. They're just filled with water sometimes. So all we do is cook the mushrooms until the water has evaporated. Then when it's cooked down, I'll add a little bit of oil and some salt. And then you can add a little butter too, and we're just going to turn the heat down and cook them until they're nice and getting golden around the edges. I have the elm oysters here that I've cooked with a dry saute. And we cooked all the water out until they started to caramelize. And I thought I would taste some and just describe the flavor to you. So if you don't cook these down and cook all the water out, like I said, these are can be a very wet mushroom. They can kind of just taste like a chunk of potato or something if you put them in soup. And that's totally fine. That's great for like a curry or something like that. Totally fine. And you can also do this method. You can par cook the mushrooms and then add them to something to get more flavor out of the mushrooms. But sometimes we just want to throw stuff in a pot. Maybe it's a long day in the field, or you just want to get it done. Anyway, here we go. So these just taste like a really good oyster mushroom. They are not as chewy as some of the other ones, which is not necessarily bad. They're very mild, but they have a great nutty flavor. You know, they're just like a good oyster mushroom. And they're free. And they're a really cool oyster mushroom, one of a number of different types. I just love how they grow out of the little knots and things like that. They're special. And they have a great taste. But the taste, just to recap, will be much stronger if you cook the water out. But you don't necessarily have to. So the choice is up to you. These are a really good mushroom for soup, as in like a clear broth that I have pictured there. They're also really good in stir fry, things that can kind of cover up the really mild flavor and let you just focus on the texture. One of my favorites is my friend David's family recipe for, they call it Japanese noodle bowl. And on my website, they were nice enough to pass it on to me. It's known as oyster mushroom soup with soba noodles. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about elm oyster mushrooms. Thanks for watching.